Hi guys, okay, so I'm back with the latest film, and this film is Justice League. And, well, what can I say? We're going to do our usual thing where I'm going to just give you my quick take on it, no spoilers, and so you know whether you should go see it at the pictures or maybe save it for DVD or whatever. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a talk about some of the themes and some of the stuff which is going on, and then we'll talk about spoilers. So before I begin, I was talking to someone and they said something I should do is tell you about, in superhero films anyway, there are two post-credit scenes. So the reason why I'm saying that is often I'm not sure myself, do I keep watching the credits? Do I stay right until the end? And if you've got, friends and that, they want to get going and eat and stuff. So this is two, and one of them's quite fun, and one of them's then the lead on to the next DC universe film. So you probably should stay for that. So, okay, quick take. This is really bad film. You should not see it. It is that bad. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's not that bad compared to Batman versus Superman. Batman versus Superman was malevolently terrible. It attacked the viewer. It was as if it hunted the viewer down and wanted to throttle them. It was that bad. So this isn't that bad. It is just awful. But it seems like it's trying. So a lot of people are giving it points for that. But no, the film is horrifically bad. And I'm going to talk about that after the break. Okay, so let's now talk about the film itself. So this film had a really troubled and quite tragic production, which makes it hard for me personally when I do criticize someone like Zack Snyder, who, if you don't know, Zack Snyder is really the guy behind the DC Universe, known filmmaker who really has an eye for action and the way he tells cinematic stories. So I quite liked The Watchmen. I thought it was okay. I mean, it's very difficult material. I thought 300, I loved all the action, even though some of it was kind of crazy. So if you don't know, he was well on the way, depending on who you read, he'd shot and essentially finished this film, but it still needed all the post-credit stuff done, post-action stuff, which is all the special effects, and his daughter died. So he brought in Joss Whedon, who, when you see the film, you'll see Zack Snyder gets the directing credit and Joss Whedon gets a screenplay credit. But it is well known that Joss Whedon rewrote the screenplay, changed the structure of the film, and then did some reshoots, a lot of reshoots, which ended up being problematic for other reasons. And when you watch this film, it's like a Frankenstein of a film. It's a bad film anyway, but you can almost see there was this bigger film and they've cut it to pieces and like a Frankenstein sewed what they could together, took a joke here, a scene here, and tried to put it all together, and it's just a complete failure. So the problem with this kind of film was this was the film which is Justice League. So if you think about Marvel Universe, they did an Iron Man film, they did a Thor film, they had done Hulk films previously and everyone knew about the Hulk from the TV show, and then they would put all these little bits together so that when you got to the Avengers, you knew everybody had had their story, and it was just what they call a bring the band together film. And it was amazing, really lots of fun. So this is a bring the band film together. You have a villain, in this case it's Steppenwolf, and then to meet that foe, you bring the band together of superheroes. Now the problem is that the film really struggles on numerous levels. Now one of them is Steppenwolf is by far the worst villain probably in the history of superhero films. So people often bag Marvel for underwriting their villains, which actually is an apt criticism. But I can tell you what, Hela from Thor is like a heroine from Ibsen compared to Steppenwolf, which is not only nothing to do, they don't explain actually what he's doing with these mother boxes, which is all buried in comics lore. But the CGI is so dreadful that you can't even give him any sort of humanity or any sort of the normal things that we want from a villain, which is charisma, and we want him to be, he or she, stylistic in their badness and so bad that you kind of love them. He is shocking. So this is what they're working against. And then it's up to Ben Affleck, who looks like he is absolutely in pain during all his face looks puffy. I actually thought for a while that there's some CGI going on, because the other thing which you might have heard about is there are some scenes involving Superman, which is not surprising, and they've brought Henry Cavill back, who I actually think is pretty good as Superman, but by the time they brought him back, because of the Joss Whedon, he had a mustache, which was contractually, because he's doing Mission Impossible films, they had in the contract that he couldn't shave it. So he shot all his scenes with this big mo, and then they've CGI'd it out, and he looks worse than an Andy Serkis kind of inspired Planet of the Apes kind of thing. It looks like he's been CGI'd, even though he's a human. It is really bad. Ben Affleck, not too much. Now, you then have a couple of people who really step up to the plate. So Jason Momoa plays Aquaman, or will, because it's kind of almost before he becomes Aquaman. And you then have Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, the Flash. And he is by far given the best lines, and he's not bad. Although, again, there's CGI. When you see him running in slow motion, it looks really bad. It threw me right out of the film. That would have been better to go with how they do Quicksilver in the X-Men films. But anyway, Jason Momoa plays kind of like a bro, and normally I hate that kind of character, but in this it works because everyone is so boring that at least he's got something, and he just looks great. He's just an amazing looking human, and I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, so it's good to see Khal Drogo back. He's really good. The other guy they have is Cyborg, and Cyborg is played by Ray Fisher, and I hated this character. I didn't understand the character. It's really boring. So you got this cast of, on paper, they look really great. You've got Wonder Woman back with Gal Gadot. Now, there's a real question mark here because I loved Wonder Woman and I thought Gal Gadot was great. And I thought she was not that great in this. Compared to everyone else, she's not bad. But I don't know if she's a bad actress or she just didn't have anything to work with, but she wasn't the same person. And that comes back to, again, to this thing about Zack Snyder directing. Now, there are a couple of shots in this film which it is unmistakable that often when people say, oh, the male gaze, I'm a little bit immune to that because filmmaking is art. Men are part of this world. They lust after women. They look at women. And sometimes you just have to, that is part of that process. But there definitely is this thing which is male gaze where it goes beyond just interactions to an objectification. And in this, there are some shots, literally, of Gal Gadot shot from waist high, really just looking at her butt. And she's a gorgeous looking girl, but it's just not necessary. And they've changed the uniform of the Amazonian women, and to make it almost like a lot more skin, and the way they're shot is so different. And it's weird because often you would say, oh, well, really, is it the male gaze? But we actually have a film in the same year with Wonder Woman where this is absent. And Patty Jenkins has directed Gal Gadot and the Amazons and everyone in a completely different way and a substantially better way. So, I mean, that was really off-putting. So not only is it a bad film, but then you've got this, and especially with everything happening in Hollywood today, that really leaves a bitter taste. So the film doesn't work. They try to put the band together, and it's not even well shot. The worst CGI, again, grey faces. This time they're called parademons, but they're so boring because, of course, we could never have anyone killing a human, which might actually be interesting as to why and what are the consequences. Look, the film is bombing. They'll still keep making them because it's probably, again, on the up. The next one will be Aquaman, comes out next year, and Aquaman looks like he could have a really interesting story, and probably the special effects would be good, and Momoa, but wow, a real dead end. I think we have to say that at this point the DC universe is just failing. So I'll come back and we'll check this off with spoilers. Okay, so the big spoiler, I guess, is it's a superhero film, so the superheroes win, as they always win. I guess the big spoiler is, of course, that in Batman vs Superman, Superman dies. You knew he wasn't going to die. They even teased it at the end of that film. And then this film has to ridiculously spend about 20 minutes resurrecting Superman. And once Superman's back in the film, those are the best scenes. It's actually quite interesting. And I quite liked some of those things. But also it just shows that Superman is so overpowered. You don't need any of the Justice League, you just need Superman. So, I don't know, it's just, that's the problem with any Superman film. He is so powerful that really what do you do with him? Anyway, and the same thing happens here. To me, the way to tell this film would have been to take The Flash and Cyborg, who I don't particularly like, but at least start the film with them, because I think then we could have had their backstories and they stumble upon this, some sort of conspiracy or the mother boxes or whatever, and then they go for help to Batman, and then he gets through. And that would have been a way more interesting, and you could have done, and that would have been a lot more like Spider-Man Homecoming, which I think the structure was excellent and really interesting, but you probably then needed a good villain, which Spider-Man had probably the best Marvel villain yet, which was the Vulture, and these guys had nothing to work with. So the film is shockingly bad. They missed some opportunities. I really am over the DC films. I don't know why I go see them. It's just so I can know what's happening in film. You kind of have to go see these big tentpole films, but this really left me feeling, bad. It shouldn't be that you feel bad after seeing a film. Look, that's it. The rest of my stuff is on YouTube, Eden Guru on Twitter. If you can, please subscribe. You hit the little bell, and that way whenever I put up new content, it'll be there. And I'll speak to you next time. Okay, see ya.